starting that early with so many different sports, the mentality but the mentality is similar in all those kinds of sports, and I was able to kind of shift that over to golf, and I think that really helped me when I was young.
Hello and welcome to the All Things Performance Podcast. Really excited for today's podcast. It's been a while and we're back with more content. And today I'm joined with Clayton Warracker and three members of the Swiish golf team. We are going to dive into the similarities and the differences between being an amateur golfer, being a pro golfer, and some things to keep in mind regardless of where you might be. And so today, before I begin, Clayton, Swiish Golf, how are you guys doing today?
Yeah, we're doing really well. How are you?
Doing excellent. And so I'm going to introduce you to everybody. But before we get going, Clayton Warracker, this is kind of your brainchild in terms of Swiish Golf. First of all, I love the name. Talk to us about the inception of Swiish Golf and, what happened during the pandemic.
Quite weird. It's firstly, thanks for having us. Thanks for taking the time for having this podcast. I've read and heard a lot of good things about you, Josiah. So I'm looking forward to the conversation going ahead. So effectively, Swiish Golf started in 2023. I just fell in love with golf during the pandemic. I've been playing it properly for the last 5 years. I joined the golf club, and through that, I managed to travel the world and play amazing courses. I played at, St. Andrews, Bay Hill in America, fantastic courses in Spain. And what I realized, there's a knack for the golf community where there's people from different walks of life and backgrounds where everyone just got together and played a wonderful game. But through that journey, I kind of realized that, golf is changing, it's going through a transition. Golf now is totally different as it was 10 to 15 years ago. The players are dressing differently, the swings are looking differently, the courses and the tournaments are starting to change and become more modernized, so to speak. And I've always wanted to start a business, and through that, for the passion of the game, I thought, why don't I do something relating to the golfing world? And that's when Swiish came into light. I decided Swiish as predominantly a headwear brand to build sort of collectively alternative golf headwear. And through that, I started doing market research and, contacting people in the golfing community, looking for feedback on the golf attire and what they thought. And through that process, and that's when I came in contact with Kazai, Manley, and Kersberg, because they in the golfing world, they're passionate about the game as I am. And we managed to develop a professional relationship over the last probably 6 to 8 months. What I also realized through that inception is that Kersberg, Manley, and Kazai were starting their professional golfing careers. Kazai was starting his career as an amateur, D1 golf in Howard University in the States. Jack Kersberg just turned pro in 2023, and that was the case for Manley. And I kind of realized, well, Swiish Golf just started in 2023 as well. So I thought, was there a possibility to have a synergy where I could support them with their careers, and where could they support the brand as well? So after a few conversations with the guys individually, they kind of aligned with the vision of Swiish, how we could help each other, help grow their exposure and help the brand grow at the same time simultaneously. And that's how effectively Team Swiish started.
That's awesome. So how'd you come up? Typically, when we think of Swiish here in the States, we think of a basketball hoop. How did you guys come up with the name Swiish? Like, what was that like?
Well, that's quite simple, actually. I was kind of brainstorming, and the first thing that came to mind was the Nike Swish, right? But obviously, I couldn't use that for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
But then I actually had a golf club in my hand, and when you swing a golf club on the opposite end from the club face itself, it makes a swooshing sound. And from that, I was playing with words in my head like swish, swoosh, swoosh, swish, and then Swiish just came to life. And then that's how I came up with Swiish. The word Swiish Golf is actually quite that simple.
Oh, I love that. So, hey, I told we're gonna go back to Swiish Golf here in a second, but we have some special guests here from the Swiish Golf team. Jack Manley, I heard you. Is your nickname Manny? Is that what Clayton just called you, Manny?
I don't know about Manny. I haven't heard Manny a lot, but I've heard of Manners a little bit. Manners is a common one, but no, not Manny. But nicknames to keep the nicknames coming, and we'll get one. We'll get one eventually.
And you know what they say about nicknames? It's the ones that you hate the most is the ones that stick, right? So,
Oh, definitely.
so we
The
have
school's a nightmare for me.
Oh, I know. I can only imagine, man. So for our audiences that are viewing and listening to this today, we have two Jacks on the podcast. One is Jack Manley, which we're going to talk to you right now. Jack, you've been described as a prodigy, right? Competing as a team, competing as a teen, rather, a teenager. You swept the under 16s, 18s, 21s, and you did it at the ripe age of 16 and 17. What was that like, man? What was the mentality like? When did you know that, man, you had something going?
Well, I think prodigy is a strong one. I don't know about prodigy, but yeah, I started when I was 5, and that's when I first kicked off. And me and my dad have been in it for ages, and we've been playing for so long. And it really kind of kicked on when I was around 12. I obviously growing up, I was quite a sportsy guy. I was playing a lot of football, playing a lot of cricket. Golf kind of really took off for me at the age of 12. And I think starting that early with so many different sports, the mentality is similar in all those kinds of sports. And I was able to kind of shift that over to golf. And I think that really helped me when I was young. But yeah, I got playing a lot of county golf when I was young really helped. We have a really good county system over here with Bedfordshire, and it's really competitive. And that's what really helped me, I think, was that opportunity to get into county golf and to really compete at regional level when I was young. I think that really helped.
I love that. And this is probably something that we can talk about in subsequent podcasts. But you said something that's near and dear to my heart as a performance coach, a sport coach, a mental performance coach. You said that, hey, I played multiple sports. I'm really big on multi-sport athletes, and one thing that you hit on was that, hey, I was able to take that mentality and apply it to my golf game.
Yeah, definitely. That's a huge factor. And I mean, they couldn't be further. The sports couldn't be any more different, really. That team sport and individual sports are very different. There's specific things that are completely different, and you've got to adapt. That's the thing about golf, is it's all about trying to adapt to different situations. And the more and more I've played, and as we're going to be talking about going from amateur to pro, the more things you've got to think about off the course as well as on the course, and that mentality's got to come from both. And you've got to really find that right balance. I think it's really important.
Yeah, I love that. And you said mentality. We're going to be talking a lot about that today and going forward. So we have another Jack, Jack Kurzberg. Welcome to the podcast. So I'm in Phoenix. Jack, I'm in Phoenix, man. And rumor has it that you declined a major scholarship offer to a Division I school in Arizona. Would you like to tell us which school that is?
That was GCU, Grand Canyon University. And I do some days when it's poor weather here regret that decision, but turning pro is also a great decision. So yeah, depends on the day.
Oh, that's awesome. Just for a side note, a nugget, I was a performance specialist at Grand Canyon University, and the golf, men's and women's golf, were two of the teams that I worked with. And so, GCU is a beautiful place. It's grown tremendously, but you're doing big things. With you, Jack, I want you to talk to us real quick about just your road leading to where you are now, because from what I understand, now you're either competing or getting ready to compete on the Pro Clutch Tour and the Asian Development Tour. What was that like in terms of, hey, making that decision to not play at a university, right, and to go and play professionally?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you feel it hit home a little bit more, I think, because you suddenly have the burden of, right, if I don't perform, I don't make money. And you sort of have to get your act together in terms of like social lives and things like that. You have to make sacrifice, and you can only learn that by making the sacrifice and learning like the benefits of not going out training well, and then how you develop as a golfer from training and performing better. So that was the main thing for me. And then a hard winter of training and then learning the right way to train as well was probably the biggest thing.
That's awesome. I'm going to go a little bit off script, just a little bit off script, because you brought up something that I want to hit on. Now,
yeah,
American football, we have a season. We play in the fall and we play in the winter. Baseball typically plays in the spring and they play in the summer, right? Basketball is usually played in the fall, winter, through the summer, and then you have summer off, right?
Yeah.
Golfers, you all are practicing and competing in tournaments year round. Where do you find that, that place to say, you know what, I'm going to stop and I'm going to develop myself? Or is it just repetitive?
You could make it repetitive. There's tournaments around the world, like every week of the year, because obviously you're sort of following the sun with golf. But then we don't follow the sun when we're sort of like head down training. So it's completely up to us and our circumstance. But sometimes you do have to just sort of evaluate the way you've played, how you think you're performing in comparison to those you're competing against, and sometimes just put your head down in the cold winter of the UK and try and get better.
Interesting. Interesting. I want to come back to that later. And, I appreciate that. Last but not least, we have Keziah Demosi. And let me know if I'm saying that right. Keziah, you hail from France. And from what I understand, your family is Congolese. Is that right?
Correct. Central African.
Awesome. Africa is in the house. Now, real quick, one of the things that I wanted to hit on with you is that you were a part of Steph Curry's, we in the States, we know that Steph Curry loves golf, right? Avid golfer, really good golfer. And we understand, the impact that his underrated tour has had, and you were a part of that. Talk to us a little bit to the viewing audience about what the underrated tour is and how you were blessed to be a part of that.
Yeah, so obviously everyone knows Steph Curry is obsessed with golf. He's got a huge influence on golf nowadays, playing loads of professional tournaments and just making golf look cool again. So I want to say 3 summers ago, is there an echo? No.
No, you're good.
About two summers ago, Steph Curry came up with the underrated golf tour, which provides a platform for minority golfers in the US to showcase their golfing ability and kind of play at a high level. But actually, lucky enough for me, I was the first European or international golfer to be invited over to the States to play on the underrated tour. So I was blessed in doing so. It's such a great experience. Travel across the States. We went to Chicago, we went to Phoenix, we went to Houston, and we finished in Florida. And then there was the championship, which was in California, in San Francisco. So just playing those tournaments, meeting college coaches. Actually, funny enough, with Jack, I met the Grand Canyon coach, Coach Mark, and I was in talks with him when I was in Phoenix. So just doing that was unbelievable. Steph kind of giving us that platform. And then funny enough, this has been going on for 3 summers now. I want to say last month, he just finished his underrated UK, which I was an ambassador for, being the first international golfer to compete. I was blessed enough to go there. I'm too old to play on it now, but I was blessed enough to go and represent the UK and just be there for good vibes, and then connecting with Howard. Steph Curry has actually pretty much started our golf program at Howard, and he's one of the main investors and donors to our program. So I've been tied in with Steph Curry since 2022. So and I will be for another 3-4 years.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So you go to Harvard University.
Howard.
Okay, it's Howard. It's Howard University.
Correct.
And with that said, you are also, we're in an Olympic year right now. But from what I understand, you are going to be competing in Olympics in 2028. For which country?
For Congo. I was there were talks of me playing in it this year. But unfortunately you can't play in the Olympics as an amateur athlete in golf. So that would kind of it kind of forced my hand to decline it this year and hope the opportunity is still there in 2028, because that would kind of interfere with my whole collegiate experience. Because obviously, you can't be a professional athlete in college, right? So I declined that offer to stay at Howard for another 4 years, and then if the opportunity is still there, then I'll be playing in the Olympics 2028 as the first Congolese golfer to do so.
That's awesome. You guys are setting all kinds of milestones and markers. I love that. And so what I would so audience, this is our Swiish golf team. And what I want to do right now is I want to open it up, right? We're talking about the differences and similarities between pros and amateurs. And Jack Manley, we're going to start with you. I have a question, and you all can kind of fill in the blanks. Clayton, you can fill in the blanks as well as you feel led. And the first question I have is, what is something that amateur athletes are doing? Actually, I'll say it like this. What is something that amateur athletes are not doing? They are not doing this, and it's directly impacting their careers. They think they want to go pro, but they're not doing this one thing over here that is having significant impact on their probability of becoming a professional.
I think that is a really good question. And I think that the most common thing I see is preparation. Leading up to the year I turned pro, which was 2023, I turned pro at the start of 2023, and I had the privilege of playing some really good tournaments as an amateur, and I had some really good regional training. I went to I was a member of the under-18 regional squad for a while, and that really put me in good stead to get the experience I needed to be able to prepare for the tournaments I wanted to play in. And when I looked around and I saw a few younger players coming up who were such good golfers. I mean, they were so talented, and just the one thing they were lacking was preparation in the way of what you do before you go out, leading up. Weeks before, I'd ask questions of what they were doing the week before a tournament, and that's the biggest thing I'd say is preparation leading up to each tournament they play in.
I love that. Preparation is absolutely vital. Jack Hurst, what do you think?
I think a lot of amateurs don't want to make that jump of making the sacrifice of their social lives. Like for me, that was tough. Obviously, everyone wants to party and have fun and enjoy your younger years, but you've got to be like married to the game if you want to make it, because there's a lot of good golfers out there. So you've got to give it your all, and sometimes that means sitting on a putting green for 10 hours, speaking to nobody all day. But you've ultimately got to do what other people aren't. So I think that's the biggest thing.
Wow. So not making the sacrifices, and then obviously preparation is huge. Now, Jack, question for both of you again here. And Clayton, please fill in the blanks if something comes to mind that you want to bring up. Was there a switch for you two that at one point, was there a definitive moment in your journey where you said, you know what, I'm going pro? You know what? I'm going to make the sacrifice. You know what? I'm not as good as I think I am, but if I do this, what everyone else is not doing, I'm going to make it. Was there a definitive fork in the road for you two?
For me, 100%. And that was, funny enough, this New Year's Eve. I had this thing where I could do anything I liked, but I had to be in the gym at 5 a.m. So I did that for like the first year I was pro. Didn't really achieve what I wanted to achieve, didn't really progress how I wanted to. But then like this New Year's Eve, I kind of set my resolution of, right, I'm going to stop that because I'm not performing how I want to. If I'm making it to the gym at 5 a.m., I'm not performing the rest of the day. So from the start of this year, I've put that to bed and seriously made some progress so far. So I'm excited to see where it goes.
That's awesome. So gym, 5 a.m. What are we doing? We doing HIIT? We doing CrossFit? We're doing weights? What cardio? What are we doing?
Depends on the day. But yeah, a lot of weights, a lot of cardio, and then just like keeping flexibility as well. Because as nice as it is to be jacked, it's not great, and there's no pun intended there, by the way. But like, it's not great for flexibility with golf. So yeah, it's a range of.
No, awesome. How about you, Jack Manley? How about you? Was there a definitive moment that you said, "Man, I can remember when I made that decision"?
Yeah, I think obviously I think it started for me way before turning pro, and I knew I wanted to turn pro. The thing, quite on the contrary to Jack, really, I think there are moments which defining moments which kind of encourage you to turn pro. But I was shooting some really, really low round, really nice rounds, when I was 13, 14, 15. And looking back on it now, I don't regret turning pro when I did, because I don't think if I kind of thought, well, I don't want to turn pro because I'm not quite ready yet. But I don't think anyone can really say they're truly ready. I think you got to do your preparation, do all you can, do your best. And, I've seen, you see it all the time. You see really good amateur pros, really good amateur players turning pro. And for the first few years, don't quite make it as quickly as everyone thought. It takes them time and time and time. And I thought, I'm going to turn pro, try and get some really good experience under my belt, play some of the best players in the country, play some Challenge Tour players, play some top pros, and gain as much experience as possible. And I don't think you can be truly ready, turn pro, and some do. Some players hit the ground running, they turn pro and they do well straight away. But it's quite rare. It usually takes a little bit of time after turning pro and gaining the experience. And I think that was my thought process.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's awesome. Keziah, I have a question for you. We'll start with you, and I'm going to open it up to the whole group here, because if I'm not mistaken, Keziah, I think you're the youngest one here, right?
Correct.
Okay. So the question that I have is, how has social media, right? How has social media changed the game for you guys? Because, when I was playing ball back in the day, we didn't have social media. Not like it was now. And social media has become a giant. It has become a giant for professional and amateur and collegiate athletes. And it's a double-edged sword, because on one end, athletes are getting their identity, their affirmation, their sense of self-worth from identity, or from social media rather, and it's crushing them when they see things that they don't agree with or that hurts them. But at the same time, on the other end of that sword, athletes are leveraging it for influence. They're building brands. They're collaborating with other brands and making a lot of money, right? Some people are making their livelihood solely on social media. How has that affected the golf game, your game, and what you've seen?
That's a good question. For me, I'm not at that level yet where, talking about college, I'm going to speak as a college athlete. We see all these NIL deals, like your Angel Reeses, your Caitlin Clarks, your Caleb Williams, all these guys who are making millions of dollars in college or social media. Obviously, their performance has got them to that level. That's a different type of social media use and platform. For me, so I use social media as a way to kind of express my love for the game of golf. I mean, there's not many black golfers that play a high level like I do, that look the way I do. I feel like I bring something special to the game. So I feel like I use social media to kind of make golf cool. I know a lot of people say it, but I actually really mean it. Like, when I put music over certain posts, you don't see a lot of the traditional golfers do that. So when people look at my social media, they see me on the golf course looking cool, and then they see my outside life when I'm traveling and when I'm doing all these cool stuff. So my use of social media isn't really to connect with brands just yet. Obviously, I'm tied in with Swiish because I like everything they stand for, and Clayton's a really good guy. So Swiish is obviously one of the brands that I'm working with, but I'm not chasing this NIL dream and everything. I'm just using it for personal use to kind of showcase my experience in golf. But yeah, and then as you said, there's negatives and positives. That's the positives, the expressing my love for the game, showing the world what golf looks like to me. And then the negatives are, as you said, like the judgment, the constant hate comes with social media, and then it affects one's mental health. But I know when to use social media, when not to use social media. So my use of social media is just to show the world how I experience golf and trying to make it look cool.
I love that. I love that because Jack, I want you to chime in here because I'd love to hear your perspective. But if I'm not mistaken, you all are Gen Z, right? Because at the end of the day, this is one of the generations, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is one of the generations that literally grew up in social media. There was no, your life was on a screen. You knew how to navigate the internet, social media, unlike other generations before you.
Yeah, it's always been around. Always. I think the way I see it, try and like, I don't know, capitalize off it, but don't let it affect you. Because obviously it's great for, say, connecting with brands and whatever, but then letting it take away from practice or whatever, as easy as it is to sit on your phone and watch TikToks or whatever it might be. You've just got to try and make sure you can look back at the end of the day and see whatever you've done on there's sort of benefits you in a certain way, and for learning as well. Like you can even find golf tips on there, which I have found years. So yeah, it's a cool platform.
I think there's a bunch of pros and cons to it, right? And I think because I hit the nail on the head is kind of why I kind of start Swiish, right? Because these guys here are what I want Swiish to represent. All three different characters from all three different walks of life who love passion for the game. And it just shows that anyone can play this game, whoever you are, whatever you look like. This is what I want Swiish to represent. And related to a branding perspective, yeah, I mean, we use that. Swiish that uses it for marketing purposes. Social media has trolls and, it can use for nefarious activities against particular people, especially athletes at higher levels. They may see it as a negative because people criticize their performance instantly, right? Before that, 10 years ago, you couldn't do that. So I think it's a fine balance the way social media is taking on the world today and impacting athletes' performance as well.
All valid points. Jack Manley, is there anything else that you would like?
Yeah, just to echo what the guy said there. It's a tool at the end of the day. It shouldn't be used in extreme cases. It's a tool. It's like fire. Just make sure you don't get burned. If you use too much of it, if you get too involved on it, it can really affect you mentally. And I've certainly had experience with that, where I've gone through patches a few years ago where I was using it all the time. I was always flicking through, and you gotta learn to come away from it when you're getting too much of it, and you got to find your kind of respite really at the end of the day, and you got to find the balance. It's all about balance, definitely.
No, powerful points that you'll all make. Powerful points. Jack Firstberg, question for you. I'm gonna start with you, and then we're gonna go round robin here. When you look at golf is one of the hardest games to play. A lot of professional athletes that I work with, they love using golf as to use Jack Manley's word, their respite. They use it as their bastion, if you will, to get away, but it still challenges them mentally and physically and emotionally. And there's this love-hate relationship that many people have towards golf. And now that you're a pro, is it really love-hate, or is it more so frustration, like being able to handle frustration? Because in the game of golf, there's a lot of failure. So talk to us about this love-hate relationship, quote unquote, and how you navigated that as you recently turned professional.
I think the main thing is you've got to realize when you turn pro, it's not going to be a smooth ride to success and performance every week. You're going to have days where you can't do a thing that you're trying. You might be trying to make your hand bend in a certain angle that you just cannot get. But you could wake up the next day and have a completely different feeling and fall in love with that feeling and the game again. I think amateur golfers that don't play as often as us will experience that more, because they might play a month and then the next month they do, and it's obviously two completely different feelings. For me, I think it's just trying to stay completely level-headed. I used to get quite hot-headed on the course. I'd hope to think if someone were watching me on a course, they would say I don't now, and even in practice. But I just kind of think in the back of my mind, it's all a process, and you're just trying to learn every day. So for me, I don't really think I would ever hate the game on a day. I become frustrated, but it's more with myself rather than the game, if anything. So yeah, I just love it. You can learn something every day, and I don't think you could do that with any other sport.
Interesting. Because how do you navigate that, this love-hate relationship, or is it truly love-hate, or is it just a matter of handling your frustration? How do you deal with it as an amateur?
I hate the game sometimes, and I love the game sometimes. It is a love-hate relationship for me. I'm never gonna quit the game of golf. Never. I'm not a quitter. I'm never gonna quit. You just gotta learn how to manage the love and manage the hate. I hate the game at the moment. I thought I cracked it, and then I played 2 bad tournaments, and I hate the game again. But I'm sure next week I'm gonna love the game again because I'm gonna play well, So golf's it's a roller coaster. You play good sometimes and you play bad sometimes. But golf, as you said, it's one of the, I think it's the hardest sport. You see a lot of professional athletes, ex-professional athletes take the game up. A lot of soccer players here play golf because it's good for the mental. It's 4 hours of just like dealing with emotions. Every hole's different. One hole is good and then you're feeling happy, and then the next hole's not as good and then you're a bit down. And then I think golf is I play a lot of golf with businessmen, right? And they tell me they bring colleagues and clients on the golf course to see how they handle challenges. Well, a lot of deals are done on the golf course because you bring your clients and out on the golf course, you can see certain aspects of their character, whether they cheat, whether they give up, whether they're resilient. So I think golf is a perfect sport for one's mental and test that resilience. But I agree with the love-hate relationship. But at the end of the day, it's more love than hate. You just hate it sometimes. But I truly love the game of golf.
Oh man, I love that. I love that. Jack Manley, how do you navigate this conversation? Is it love-hate? Is it more dealing with failure? How do you handle it?
I think when you've played the game as long as we have, you become numb to the pain almost. But I think it's so fascinating how every player is different. Every player has their own way of dealing with frustrations and emotions. Like, you look at all the players on tour. I think if you told certain players to change the way they deal with things on the course, they wouldn't be the players they are. They wouldn't play as well. So I think you've got to learn to kind of tailor your way of dealing with emotion to your game and to try and benefit you. Because you have to learn off other people and you have to try different things. But I think ultimately you've got to find your way of dealing with those emotions. And I agree with what Kazai said, like, I think it's such a good way to figure out and learn about yourself in a way to learn the qualities that you have and to try and work your way around problems. And I think it's interesting.
From a business perspective, I think what Kazai said, doing an interview on a golf course is probably the best decision a business owner could make, because you can see a person's characteristics, right? How the person controls their emotions, how they react to challenges, whether they cheat. In an environment, it's a long interview for 4 hours, 4 to 5 hours, getting to know someone. And a lot of like job interviews, these days last about half an hour, 40 minutes. You could tell a lot about a person in a round of golf, definitely.
Yeah,
I think a scenario as well where you can have 4 hours as an interview or whatever. So for that reason, golf might be the best game.
Oh, I love. Hey, at the end of the day, some people they might just say, you know what, I don't want the job anyway. I'm out of here. You know what I mean? You never know. So this tees us up very nicely for the next portion of this, right? Especially with our theme. What are the pros and what are the differences and similarities between pros and amateurs? And some of you have already made that jump and are about to make that jump and have been around the world of golf. Now, the question that I have for you all, and I want you to answer this uniquely to you. There's no right or wrong way to answer this question. But the question that I have is, what is your mental approach to golf? If you were to thematically sum it up in a few words, how you prepare, how you attack, how you reset. If you were to explain that to someone, how would you describe your thematic approach to golf when it comes to your mentality? And Jack Manley, will start with you.
Oh, it's that's a really tough one to dial it down to a word or two. But all I can say is the biggest change for me was was definitely finding a way off the course. You know, like from amateur to pro. You know, growing up as an amateur when I was young, all I cared about was golf. I was just thinking golf, golf, golf. What can I do to get better? Gym work, started doing that 15, 16. And then, you know, you go to pro and then you suddenly realize, oh, I've got to start paying now. I've got to start, you know, paying for these competitions, paying for accommodation. And that's when I had to make changes off the course. But if I had to sum it down to one word, I'd say intense. I'd say the intensity of your preparation and your things you do off the course to help with on the course. Also, your mentality on the course has got to stay focused and intense. So, yeah, that's what I'd say for that.
Awesome. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, Jack.
Go on.
Go ahead, Jack.
It's a very tough question, right? It's a very tough question. If you were to give another person your motto, the way that you think about golf mentally, how would you describe that? Are you somebody who's more proactive? Are you somebody who is always in attack mode? Do you flow with it? Are you more edgy when it comes to intensity, or are you more reserved and do you ramp up? How do you prepare? How do you reset when things go wrong? Or how do you attack when it's your time to seal the deal to potentially win a golf tournament?
I think you just got to find your flow. That's the most important thing, because you've got to be comfortable. The biggest thing for me was like performance when you're nervous, I've found doesn't help. Like I never have performed best and nervous. So I think finding my flow, finding my groove, whether that's in practice or in a tournament, it massively helps. And you ultimately have to find that in your practice, because you can like put yourself in scenarios with friends or whatever, where you can add an element of pressure, whether that's with a little bit of money or whatever. But yeah, just staying in your groove and going with the flow, not overthinking it too much. Ultimately, it's what we do best, I'd hope, at least. So you got to trust it.
Nice, I love that.
I'll add, for me, I practice with purpose, because I'm still an amateur, right? But the next level is pro. So you got to train like a pro as an amateur. So then when you get to that level, it's just easy. You know what I mean? So I'm very superstitious with my practice and just in life. So I'll always do the same practice. I'll always practice the same. I'll always practice with purpose. Even if I'm playing with my friends, I'm playing for something, playing for money, playing for pride, social media embarrassment. I'm always playing for something, because at the end of the day, the only difference between a pro and an amateur is that the amateur's playing for pretty much nothing and the pro is playing for money, right? So the constant pressure of money as a professional is something that I'm going to experience very soon. So I'm preparing that now. And then even in America, Americans are so competitive. Like in my golf team at college, we could be playing like 9 holes, like not meaning anything to me, and they're still playing for like $150. So I'm always playing under pressure, so that when I do get to these pressure situations, if I need to hold a putt to win a big tournament, I've done it before. Like it's not easy, but it's not out of the ordinary. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm putting myself under pressure situations in practice. So then when I actually get to those real pressure situations, it's like I've done it before. Kind of like what Kobe said, like practice all the free throws and the all his free throws in practice. So then when he gets to the championship games, like he's been there, done. That's nothing new.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing responses there. And I want to say thank you again. And as we get ready to close, I want to throw the ball back to you, Clayton. You know, when you look at it, environments are crucial, right? Environments are absolutely crucial. As a matter of fact, one of the things I posit to many is that the only way a seed can grow faster is if it's in a healthier environment, right? the fertilizer's on point, the sun is hitting, you're watering it, it's being aerated. That's how you make a seed grow faster. And I know that you have tried to create that environment with Swiish. Why is that so important when it comes to developing talent?
I think you have to be consistent. That's the only way I could explain it, because Swiish is still a young brand. But what I've realized in the golfing world and the golfing community, and then connecting with the players, is that it's golf is a evolving game, but that's really hard. These guys put a lot of work in. Like, Kurzberg is up mostly every day at 5 a.m. hitting the gym. Because I showed me his schedule a few weeks ago. He's playing golf every other day. Manly's practicing every day. And from a business perspective, I think, and a golf perspective, I think there's a correlation that you have to be consistent in the good times and the bad times to get where you need to be. I'm not sure if that answers your question, but it's that's the only way I could see the brand growing and watching these guys grow. And what they said today hit massive points in their progression as professional athletes, putting the work in, the 100% effort, practicing with purpose. And touching on what Kazai said, one of my coaches when I play sports off my football team, he used to say, practice ugly to look pretty, right? Because you have to have that match intensity in practice to when you play the big games and the tournaments. Because practice should be like, you should be practicing like you're playing for a match. And that's what I feel like these guys do. And that's the same with business, right? There's a lot of challenges and issues you can come across. And you just have to be very consistent and just keep putting the work in to get the results.
Yeah, well said. Well said. And, again, I want to thank you all for joining us. And as we get ready to leave, I want each one of you all, Jack, and then Keziah, I want you all to give the listeners, the audience here, just a word of wisdom, things that you've learned personally as it relates to this road. From being an amateur at one point, Jack, Keziah, you're still there. And then now being a pro, Jack, right? I want you to give the audience just some words of wisdom, some encouragement that you have taken to heart that has helped you along the journey for somebody who might be in your shoes, who might be getting ready to step into your footsteps. And let's go ahead and we'll start off with you, Keziah.
My words. How many words would you like?
No, just however you want to encourage somebody. There's a lot of people who are going to listen to this who are just like you, who are aspiring to do what you guys are doing. How would you encourage with something that has helped you in the past?
I get a lot of my motivation from my father. He was a professional athlete, and he kind of restored confidence in me, like self-belief and confidence, that competitive nature back in me. Because I used to play soccer, then I stopped playing soccer, started playing golf, right? So words of wisdom, first of all, be ready. It's not easy. I learned to hustle. I write on my golf club, hustle. Hustle means a lot of stuff, like just pretty much hustle for me is one big word to describe dedication, determination, kind of, don't know how to describe it. In terms of golf isn't don't play golf perfect, right? So sometimes I play bad, but I score well. That's because I'm hustling. So the main word for me is hustle. I hustle on the golf course. It doesn't matter how it looks. I'm just trying to get the ball in the hole in the least amount of shots. I could hit it in the trees, hit into the other trees, hit one good shot, and I've still made a par. So for me, that's hustling. So my word to the audience would be hustle. Learn to hustle. Learn to, just hustle. But for me, hustle is one big word for dedication, determination, and yeah. So hustle's my word to you, Josiah.
Beautiful. I love that. Jack, how about you, Jack? And you don't know which one I'm talking to. It could be Jack Kurzberg or Jack Bentley.
You go first, Jack.
Okay. For me, I think the biggest thing is doing it for you. If you stick with the process and you're content with the progress you're making and stuff, you can then take steps back and look from a different perspective when people congratulate you for, I don't know, winning something or progressing in a certain way. And it kind of gives you that sense of sort of like fulfillment, and you chase it because it's addictive. So I think for me, that's the biggest thing. Because you kind of want to do everyone proud, and then prove some people wrong, and show the rest of the world who you are as well. So the only way to do that, I think, is to put your head down, and then you can kind of look back up from a different perspective and see where you've come out. So yeah, I don't have a word though.
No, that's great. I love that.
So I just wanted to double check with the question. So was it advice I would give for any player or any club player or any kind of aspiring pro? Or
yeah, so today we've been talking about the similarities and differences between pro and amateur. Obviously, you and Jack were once amateurs, and now you're pro. Kazai is an amateur is going to be a pro. And there may be people listening to this who say, man, I want to do what Jack is doing. I want to do what Jack Manley's doing. What are some words of wisdom that have helped you, or things that have helped you that you can share as words of wisdom to those who are coming behind you in your footsteps?
Yeah, I think definitely celebrating the small wins. So every day you can't. It's obviously a game of perfection golf. Everyone's striving to be perfect. Everyone wants to get better. And the more I look around at pros at the top level, or pros at my level, or whatever level it is that they always look at the negatives. They always look at their bad shots. And when they actually hit a good shot, they don't acknowledge it the way they should. And I think that's something I've learned definitely going into professional golf, is when you hit a good shot, celebrate it. You know, if you're out there and you're hitting good shots and you're feeling good, take note of it and celebrate it. And I think, yes, look at what you need to improve on. Everyone wants to do that. Everyone wants to improve. So to keep track of that, but also make sure you celebrate those small wins every day, because that's something that's so important for your mental health as well. And you know, playing every day in the game we love. So
I love that. I love that. You know, as we get ready to close, I just wanted to say thank you to our guests from Swiish Golf, for Keziah Demosi, Jack Kersberg, Jack Manley, Clayton Waracker. This is Josiah with All Things Performance, and we'll talk to you soon.